Monsoon a little bit ago, and how the lightning, of course, can be dangerous and deadly. But this time of year, that lightning is responsible for fires, and we need the rain. We certainly could use it. Unfortunately, even though we're officially into the monsoon season, our weather pattern just isn't there just yet. So as you look at satellite clouds and radar with me, we've got dry conditions across the state. We've got clear skies statewide and clear skies really across much of the region. Our storm system that brought those gusty winds the last few days slowly lifting to the northeast. And as you look at dew points across the region, the measure of the moisture in the atmosphere, you're seeing a lot of browns out there. We want to see more of those greens, an indication that we're starting to get some of that monsoon moisture in here. Not going to happen, not today, and not through the weekend. But we do have some changes heading our way. So that disturbance that was to our north that brought the gusty winds the last couple days is slowly pushing to the northeast. Next up, we've got high pressure rebuilding and re-strengthening over the area. And it's this ridge of high pressure that's going to bring the hot weather that's going to head our way, not just through the weekend, but especially next week, with high temperatures getting even hotter near 110, if not a little higher. But then I'm going to be watching this ridge of high pressure because it looks like it's going to kind of linger in the area and potentially start to give us that monsoon pattern setup. Maybe some more moisture, not this weekend, but next weekend. So dew points could be going up. You could start to notice that humidity and maybe some storm chances. It's way too far out to be sure, but that's what I'm going to be watching over the next 7 days. In the meantime, today, high temperatures in the low hundreds through tomorrow, below average highs. The winds will also get lighter as that storm system to our north pushes further away, and then high temperatures will be heating up next week. So enjoy these next couple days if you can. Temperatures in the 70s right now across the valley. It's 77 in Phoenix, cooler in Chandler, Glendale, and Goodyear, where we're checking in the low 70s at this hour. Here's that hour by hour planner. Know that we're going to be back into the 80s by 7 to 8 o'clock, but then we'll stay in the 80s for a few hours and see the 90s by around 11. Still in the 90s through lunchtime, mid 90s today through noon, and we won't see those hundreds until about 3 o'clock this afternoon, with that high today of 103. And you notice those winds overall lighter between about 5 and 10 miles an hour. Low hundreds again tomorrow. But then looking at next week, highs are topping 110 up to 112 by next Wednesday.
Iris, thank you. The happiest place on earth has opened back up in Hong Kong. Disneyland closed nearly 5 months ago, so it opened with reduced capacity, of course, and some social distancing in place. But you can see a lot of people still there for the opening, including Mickey and Minnie Mouse. You got to have them. It's not a party without them. Time now 5:21 on this Thursday. Major companies changing brands we see at the store every day. The push for racial equality when it comes to marketing food. Plus this, summer camp is still happening for some Valley kids. So what precautions are being taken to make sure they don't spread the coronavirus? .524 only on ABC 15. A look inside the classroom as some school districts start to welcome students back for summer camp. So this is what's happening at the Peoria District's Kids Zone Ed Camp. They're performing temperature checks and health screenings on students and on staff every day. Some of the other preventative measures we're told that they have in place include having only 9 students per classroom, distancing markers on the floor, limiting shared materials, and a staff member solely dedicated to keeping toys and surfaces sanitized.
How are we going to provide drinking water safely? How are we going to do drop-off? Things like that. It was just all of those little things that we've never really had to focus on were all a huge focus this year.
Well, some of these steps just won't be possible with hundreds of kids on campus, but the district says it's a testing ground as they work to release more concrete reopening plans sometime next month.
And the rockets regular, the bombs bursting in air.
Ooh, goosies this morning. This impromptu duet happening at Portland State University. That's Madison Hallberg there. She's practicing the national anthem for her virtual commencement, and then she's joined by someone walking by, but as you might imagine, listening to his voice. He is no stranger to music. That's Emmanuel Henry, an opera singer. Oh, gosh, you could listen to that all day. Excellent. All right, I think a lot of people would say undoubtedly Simone Biles is the greatest gymnast of all time. And she has a few moves named after her. She's at it again, performing a new skill that no one has ever nailed before. This is a triple twisting double back. Her balance beam dismount, taking less time to perform than to say, right? While the Tokyo Olympics are on hold until next year, she won't put this into her routine. She says it's just deemed too dangerous.
It is 5:27 and it's a health debate that has people taking political sides. Should wearing a face mask be mandated? The governor is weighing in. I'll tell you what he decided coming up.
Up and at 'em on this Thursday, we say good morning to you and thank you for waking up with ABC 15 Mornings. We sure appreciate it. I'm Kaylee O'Kelly here in studio. Our Nick Saletti is social distancing from home, and you can see the sun is up and shining. A beautiful morning in the month of June.
Yeah, hey, so far we're getting things started off great here on a Thursday. Let's bring in meteorologist Iris Hermosillo, though, to give us a more exact look at that most exact. Hey, we could call it a most exact forecast, but it's also known as the most accurate forecast, Iris.
Hey, you call it what you want. It's all good. But hopefully you get outside and enjoy our weather here this morning, because we do have some nice conditions. Clear skies overall across the valley and mostly clear conditions across the state. Of course, there is a haze in many spots across Arizona as we wake up to wildfire smoke in many spots in our area. All in all, though, clear conditions here in the valley. 77-hour temperature right now, and I think we could still go a little further down before we start to warm again. Back into the low 80s by 7 a.m., but we won't even see the hundreds today until close to 3 o'clock, and our high peaks at 103 this afternoon, just a few degrees below the normal high for this time of year. Good air quality this morning, in the moderate range this afternoon for ozone, so if you want to get outside, not too bad today air quality wise, but that'll change Friday, Saturday, and Sunday as we also start our warm up. Potentially some high pollution advisories going into effect. We'll talk more about that and of course that warm up in that 7-day forecast.
And good morning, I'm Carla Navarrete over in Chandler at the Lone Butte Gila River Casino, where this morning I can tell you this casino, along with 2 others, V Cuiva and Wild Horse Pass, have also closed down suddenly overnight. We've reached out to management trying to get more information as far as the reasons or how long they will be shut down. We haven't heard back from them just yet, but I can tell you they shut their doors down back in March and then reopened on May 15th. We actually were the crew that came out here and did a story on their opening efforts. They had an array of things that they mentioned as far as safety mechanisms in order to keep from COVID-19 coming into their doors. We do know that this week they did have 1 employee die of COVID-19, so we're still not really sure exactly what message they're going to be sending out to the public, but right now I can tell you 3 casinos, Gila River casinos, to include V Cuiva, also Wild Horse Pass and Lone Butte, where we are at in Chandler, have closed their doors. No more information as of now, but we're going to stay on this story and bring you the very latest as it develops. For now, reporting live in Chandler, I'm Carla Navarrete, ABC 15, Arizona.
All right, Carla, thank you for that. We know the daughter of the man who died working there is going to be on Good Morning America here a little later this morning. Thank you for that live report.
In the meantime, Arizona's COVID-19 cases pushing closer to 41,000. And this morning, the state's still not requiring face masks for everybody in public. But now towns or cities and counties could be working on different mandates for everyone. The governor handing that decision over to local leaders. So let's get out to ABC 15's Mark Thompson right now, who's going to break this down for us. So Mark, this has been an ongoing debate for a long time. Even now, people are still debating, well, should the governor have done a statewide order? Is it okay like this? A lot of people weighing in.
Yeah, Nick, good morning to you. That debate, it continues on. And at the beginning of the COVID-19 outbreak, in fact, face masks were not recommended. In fact, in February, the U.S. Surgeon General said stop buying masks as they are not effective. But in the beginning of April, the CDC changed its tune, recommending masks. And while many places have implemented a face mask requirement, here in Arizona, it was never enforced, just recommended. But that could soon change in some places.
We are going to change and update guidance so that local governments can implement mask and face covering policies and determine enforcement. And the trend is headed in the wrong direction. And the actions that we're going to take are intended to change that direction and reverse this trend.
Already, mayors from across the state are preparing to mandate masks. Tucson, Mesa, Flagstaff, and Tempe, and many others have said that the requirement is coming soon, and those mandates could come down as early as today. The town of Gilbert holding an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. But that also raises the question about enforcement, and the governor says that it's going to be up to local agencies to enforce these rules, and that could mean that somebody here in Phoenix might receive a different punishment than, say, somebody who lives in Tempe or Tucson. So a lot still to work out here as these new requirements start to come down. Reporting live this morning, Mark Thompson, ABC 15 Arizona. Nick, back to you.
Okay, Mark, thank you. Valley Metro, meantime, will also require face masks for all riders. This starts on July 1st. Exceptions, though, include children under the age of 2, anyone with a disability that makes it difficult to wear a face covering, or if you're advised by a medical professional to not wear a mask.
It's 5:35 now. The state's largest school district will unveil plans for the fall semester. Mesa Public Schools returning August 4th. The district has a 170-member task force working on a return plan. Mesa Public School District is asking for the community's feedback. Meetings beginning on this tonight, 2 more set for next week. You will have to sign up to join either online or via text.
Pinal County Sheriff Mark Lamb revealing he has COVID-19. He thinks he likely contracted it at a campaign event that happened on Saturday in Santan Valley. Sheriff Lamb was supposed to attend a White House event on Tuesday, but was screened for the coronavirus ahead of time. And when the results came back positive, he wasn't allowed in, of course. Sheriff Lamb says that he has been asymptomatic so far.
As Arizona sees record high coronavirus cases and hospitalizations, so many of you we know have questions about safety for yourselves and, of course, for your family members. You're going to get a chance to get your questions answered today at noon. ABC 15 investigator Melissa Blasius leading a town hall discussion with health experts. To watch it live, visit ABC 15 Arizona's Facebook and YouTube pages. Questions can be submitted right now. Just send them to the rebound at abc15.com.
Okay, well, that same hot, windy weather that has fueled the bushfire expected to continue today. The fire now a third of the size of the city of Phoenix, if you can believe that. John Genovese is live right now as several communities remain evacuated. So, John, bring us up to speed on what's happening there.
Yeah, good morning, Nick. Well, more than 600 firefighters are now battling the bushfire. We saw more evacuation orders and standby orders put in place yesterday, but the fire is still just 5% contained. And if you look behind me, since the sun started coming up, you can see there that smoky haze all across the Four Peaks Wilderness and that plume of smoke there off to the left. It's really eerie to see where we are along State Route 87, again at the closure at Bush Highway. Now, we've been talking about how the winds have presented a challenge in this. That, combined with what crews say is an abundance of invasive grasses, have really made this thing primed to spread. Now, so far, evacuation orders are in place for Tonto Basin, Apache Lake, Sunflower, and Pumpkin Center. People living in and around Jake's Corner remain on standby this morning. Now, the bushfire already becoming one of the biggest fires in the state's history. Thankfully, so far, though, no structures have been burned. But in all of these big fires, crews say there is typically a common thread, that being the wind in all these. Now, a crew saying that a car fire set this off on Saturday. Again, part of State Route 188 is closed off this morning. State Route 87 closed where we are heading north to Payson at Bush Highway. So if you are traveling out in this area, if you're planning to travel in this area, that is something you certainly need to be mindful of. And we are expecting another update on just how much this fire may have grown overnight at 7 o'clock when firefighters hold their daily briefing, guys.
Okay, John Genovese, thank you for that update. Please stay safe. Now, we're closely monitoring the Bighorn fire that's burning south of us, threatening the tourist hotspot of Mount Lemmon near Tucson. So far, this fire has burned about 24,000 acres and is now 40% contained. This is what else we're finding out. People who own cabins on the highest peak of the Catalina Mountains have been rushing to evacuate. Ironically, this comes on the 17th anniversary of the Aspen fire that burned more than 300 homes and businesses in the village of Summerhaven. Wendy Carlson, who is from Scottsdale, lost the cabin her father built in the Aspen fire. And now she fears she might lose the home that they rebuilt. But the Aspen fire has prepared her for this, she says.
It's kind of a sense of, oh my God, not again. This can't be happening. Why is this happening again? As prepared as we feel like we've been with all the fire lines that have been cut, by the Forest Service, and it just goes to show you what a force Mother Nature is.
Crews have worked to dig those fire lines around the village of Summerhaven, and Wendy tells us that seeing hotshot crews already staging for action in the area also gave her some peace of mind.
5:39 now, and there is new fallout in Atlanta as police officers call out sick hours after another officer was charged in the death of Rayshard Brooks. Former officer Garrett Rolfe facing 11 charges, including felony murder, which carries a possible life sentence or the death penalty. Now, the other officer in that case charged with aggravated assault, and that's even though his attorney says he never pulled out a gun. Police body and dash cam footage shows Brooks refusing arrest after police say he failed a sobriety test. Brooks is seen taking one of the officer's tasers before getting shot.
The city of Atlanta says you cannot even fire a taser at someone who's running away, so you certainly can't fire a gun, a handgun, at someone who is running away.
The district attorney says after the shooting, officers did not render aid for more than 2 minutes, and at one point, one of the officers reportedly stood on Brooks' shoulders. The DA says his office interviewed 10 witnesses and watched 8 videos of the Rayshard Brooks shooting, including surveillance, body cam, and cell phone video.
It took literally people's deaths for this company to really take a hard look at what was in front of them.
Some of the best-known brands in the supermarket facing new scrutiny for racial stereotypes this morning. The makers of Aunt Jemima, Uncle Ben's, and Mrs. Butterworth are all promising changes amid ongoing protests demanding racial equality. PepsiCo says its decision to retire the Aunt Jemima brand is, quote, an effort to make progress towards racial equality. Well, this just in right now, the weekly jobs numbers are out, and 1.5 million Americans applied for unemployment for the first time last week. The 11 straight weeks of drops since the pandemic began. This downward trend since March, still twice the peak from the 2008 recession. Again, 1.5 million Americans filing for those unemployment benefits last week.
It's almost 5:42, and when it comes to coronavirus, is Arizona about to become the hardest hit place in the world? All new this morning, the grim warning from a top health official. Plus, flooded with tough images and bad news, how social media right now could be playing a negative role in the lives of our teenagers.
ABC 15 Desert Drive Time, sponsored by Accident Law Group.
15 minutes before 6 o'clock here as we take a look at your Desert Drive Time traffic from Accident Law Group. This is the I-10 there at the mini stack. It is a gorgeous morning here in the valley. Want to catch you up here on your top national headlines. Ferguson, Missouri, just swearing in its first black mayor. Ferguson, synonymous with the Black Lives Matter movement after the deadly police shooting of Michael Brown. Ella Jones, by the way, will serve a 3-year term. And talks resume today for Major League Baseball. A new proposal would create a 60-game season. Commissioner Rob Manfred in Phoenix earlier this week to meet with executives of the Players Association. The season could get underway July 19th.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Well, 5:46 all new this morning. Arizona put in the national spotlight for its coronavirus cases, and a researcher at Harvard this morning calling out Governor Doug Ducey for this. Dr. Eric Ding is a public health scientist, and he tweeted out, quote, sad day, Arizona has crossed the Rubicon. Its epidemic now exceeds Brazil and Peru to be one of the hardest hit regions in the world, exceeding all of European countries as well. So he also compares Arizona with Beijing, saying that Beijing, with 20 million people, closed all schools and locked down city after just 15 new cases per day this week, while Arizona, with 7 million people, keeps the state open after suffering 1,000 to 2,000 new cases every single day this week. Now, he says that Governor Ducey needs to act now in order to try to control this.
Well, this current pandemic is stressful for all of us, right? But especially so for our teenagers who have not developed all of the tools needed to cope properly. The pandemic has caused fear and anxiety for many teenagers. Internet news and social media are saturated with images and information that can leave kids feeling hopeless.
They get information independent of their parents, and that has a real effect on them.
Experts say it is important for parents to talk to their teenagers. All this time stuck at home can be harmful to their well-being.
Young people are not meant to be stationary and stay put. Young people are meant to get out and about and be busy. The phase that adolescents are in is a social phase. The way they get to know who they are is by interacting with peers.
If your teenager is acting like the world is over, it's not their fault.
For teens, they haven't developed that part of the brain that helps us understand the future. Most young people can't process future thinking the way an adult can. So what that means is they're very stuck in, this is what it is right now, this is going to be forever.
Help them put things in perspective. Every generation faces defining moments, from September 11th to the Rodney King riots, from Watergate and Vietnam to the Kennedy and Martin Luther King assassinations.
Put it in a frame that they understand. Not that they're comparing, well, I had this too, and so do you, suck it up, so that they can say, I've been there. My generation was there for different reasons. So let's talk about that so that you know that this won't endure.
It's a good conversation starter, right? To connect. Finally, parents, we need to be checking in on what our kids are doing on their phones. Too much social media. You'd think it could connect the kids, but it can actually make them antisocial, and it can lead to depression. Some sunshine could help, that's for sure. And it is beautiful outside this morning, Iris.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a good morning to get outside and get some of that fresh air, but I get it, man. I mean, it's overwhelming for us as adults, right? So I know it's even harder for teenagers. And so we just gotta all try to do our best to get to it, to get through it together, rather. And yes, by getting outside and enjoying the great weather this morning, that's a good idea. Now, we also have to talk about fire danger, because that has been an issue for us the last few days, especially with those stronger winds. A bit of good news today, our fire danger dropping slightly because those winds won't be as strong. So we don't have any wildfire alerts today, or any fire weather alerts, I should say, across our state. But know that our fire risk will remain in the high range today and through the weekend, because it's still really dry out there. And of course, the heat also contributes to that. I'm also continuing to keep a close eye on the burn areas related to the bushfire. And you can see just the new burn areas already inching up closer to Sunflower, the Tonto Basin, right along Roosevelt Lake as well. You're looking for those areas in red to show you where that fire is spreading. And you notice that it's spreading to the east. Those winds have been coming out of the west-southwest the last few days, fueling that fire and pushing it further to the east. The good news again today is that winds will lighten up a bit. So hopefully that will help those fire crews. As far as the forecast for that area today, we're talking temperatures in the 90s to low hundreds. Still some occasional breezes gusting near 20 miles an hour, but not as strong or as frequent of wind gusts as we felt the last few days. So a bit of good news there, but dry conditions remain. I also want to talk about that smoke forecast, because if you're in Fountain Hills, you may be smelling a little bit of that smoke. You may see a little bit of the haze. Certainly as you look east of the valley, you're seeing that haze. This is the smoke forecast, and you can see that area of smoke starting to lift to the north up towards Payson. Initially, Payson will likely be the spot that gets the thicker smoke as those winds come in out of the east-southeast. But then watch as we go through the day, that smoke begins to blow towards spots like Holbrook again. So if you live northeast of this fire, once again, you've got to be concerned with that smoke. Also, Tucson, that fire down near Mount Lemmon, also blowing that smoke towards the northeast as we head into this afternoon as those winds come in out of the southwest. That means not necessarily going to see that smoke here in the valley. Our air quality in the moderate range today, but then that'll change. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we could see an ozone high pollution advisory in place for the Phoenix area. Temperatures right now, 60s and 70s across the valley, feeling pretty good. As you look at this hour-by-hour forecast, we'll see temperatures peak at 103 today, 1 degree lower than where we ended up yesterday, low hundreds in central and in western Arizona. And tomorrow, another day in the low hundreds before we start to warm up. Father's Day up to 108, and next week highs near 110.
Chelsea Davis here, and don't miss tonight's episode of Holy Moly. Not only will it be full of out-of-this-world challenges on the supersized course, it also features 2 local contestants representing the talent right here in Arizona. Up first, Amanda Robertson of Phoenix.
By trade, I'm a professional golfer, but I own a company called Backswing Golf Events. So we fundraise for charities on the golf course using female touring pros.
We also have Mary Driscoll of Scottsdale.
I do professional long drive, so I'm on the World Long Drive Tour, currently ranked 7th in the world, and I teach golf.
It seems like everyone has a larger-than-life personality. Did either one of you have a character?
I don't know if it'll be shown or whatnot, but there were parts of me singing.
When I started golfing, I hit the ball really far, and everyone's like, oh, that's scary. Like, you're scary, Mary. And then that kind of caught back on again when I got into sports.
So did either one of you win?
I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see.
I got to meet a star. So, I mean, winning there.
Only one contestant will score the Holy Moly plaid jacket, the golden putter from Steph Curry, and win $250,000. What would you do with the cash?
I definitely would take some of the money to invest into what I'm doing. We raise money for nonprofits.
The basic stuff, take care of some of my own financial needs, and then help fund a great program, PGA Hope, that helps our veterans get back into golf and socializing.
Good luck, ladies. Arizona is rooting for you, and you can watch them compete tonight on Season 2 of Holy Moly on ABC 15 at 7 o'clock.
Chelsea Davis, thank you. Hey, Chipotle is offering customers more ways to order online, making it easier. The company introducing Pepper. It's concierge bot on Facebook Messenger. You can order by going on to Chipotle's Facebook page and clicking Message Us.
Well, this just in. We have a mega winner. The Arizona Lottery says a married couple from Glendale is taking home last week's Mega Millions jackpot, choosing the lump sum cash option for an estimated $228 million. That is awesome. Now, they have chosen to remain anonymous, but we do know they have played the lottery for 38 years, choosing numbers based on family birthdays. I think it's probably going to be a pretty good Christmas for every family member there.
I would hope so.
We're back in a moment.
This is ABC 15 Mornings.
Coronavirus widespread across Arizona. More than 80% of inpatient beds and ICU beds are filled with COVID patients. Cities across our state beginning to mandate you wear a mask, whether or not you're going to. Changes are being made at restaurants and businesses, and some casinos may be shutting their doors too. Complete coverage this hour for you of the coronavirus in Arizona.
Plus, highways closed for days and a number of communities evacuated. The bushfire continues to grow this morning, and firefighters hope the weather will be in their favor at some point as they prepare for another day of battling the bushfire there on the front lines.
And we'll be getting to that weather forecast momentarily, but first we say thank you for waking up with ABC 15 Mornings. We appreciate it. I'm Kaylee O'Kelly. Our Nick Saletti is social distancing from home, and we do want to get you over to our meteorologist, Iris Hermosillo, for a look at that fire weather and really a pleasant morning, at least, to get things started.
Absolutely, gorgeous start. Temperatures cooling off nicely. We've got a few spots in the 60s, a lot of spots in the 70s here to kick off the day at 77 in Phoenix, but Chandler, Glendale, both in the low 70s still at 73 degrees, mid to upper 70s in Goodyear and in Mesa. Shaping up to be a great morning and a more gradual warm up again today, as today's temperatures will be similar to yesterday's, but 1 degree lower. In fact, as Phoenix looks to top out at 103, yesterday we hit 104, and that's below average for this time of year. So we'll take it. Those hundreds don't even set in until about 3 this afternoon. Lighter winds here in the valley, but the fire concern remains high across the state. Not as high as the last few days, as winds will overall back off, but temperatures will still be hot in the low hundreds in the valley and where the bushfire is burning, and also dry conditions remain in place. So we'll have more on the smoke forecast and that fire forecast for the weekend in just a few minutes.
Iris, thank you. This morning, the bushfire, 20,000 acres larger than the entire city of Mesa. In about an hour, we're going to get some new figures on how much that fire did grow overnight. Our John Genovese live this morning as the Beeline Highway remains closed right now. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Kaylee. And last night, APS saying that they were planning to de-energize some of the power lines in Tonto Basin and Pumpkin Center, potentially in Jake's Corner as well. That community is still under pre-evacuation orders this morning. But if I step aside, as the sun has come up, so has the smoke. You can see there that plume of smoke off in the distance here in the Four Peaks Wilderness for 2 days straight now. The bushfire growing some 25,000 acres a day. Now, so far, thousands of people have been evacuated from the Apache Lake, Sunflower, Pumpkin Center, and Tonto Basin area. The fire continuing to move north and northeast toward Roosevelt Lake. Again, people living in Jake's Corner have been ordered to be on standby and have that go bag ready with medication, important documents, money, clothing, and food. Crews saying a car fire sparked all of this near where we are off State Route 87 on Saturday, and since then we're told the weather and just the level of vegetation in this area in the Four Peaks Wilderness has presented a near non-stop struggle.
It's difficult to say, well, where are we going to draw a line to contain this thing, because the fire is still moving and it could easily flank the firefighters. Crews are working on reinforcing the lines that are currently in place. They're also doing what we call structure protection and point protection.
And again, we are expecting to see another jump in acreage when firefighters hold that briefing just about an hour from now. And a reminder for folks that have been impacted by this, the Red Cross has set up shelters both in Miami, Arizona and Payson to provide food, water, supplies, and link people up with accommodations in the area here. But guys, certainly a lot of attention on this fire. More than 600 firefighters now battling this as they hope to get some more containment throughout the day today.
All right, John Genovese, we know tough situation for them out there. Thank you for that. Let's stay on top of breaking news this morning. It looks like Gila River casinos are closed right now. All entrances are shut down at the Lone Butte location in the East Valley. We are getting reports that the same is also happening at Wild Horse and Vequiva. Carla Navarrete live for us this morning outside of Lone Butte. Carla, good morning. What are you finding out?
Yeah, good morning to you, Nick. You mentioned those entrances to the parking lots. Everything is shut down to this Lone Butte casino this morning. We've reached out to management and haven't heard back yet, and apparently this all taking place overnight. I can tell you there is no mention of this closure on the company's website or on their Twitter or Facebook feeds. We did see a sign, an electronic sign saying, quote, "This location currently closed. See you soon." Now, Gila River casinos, they opened back on May 15th and announced they had a plethora of safety measures and protocols in place. In fact, we came out here and did a story with them on that morning on May 15th and showcased all of the things that they were doing, including tracking folks who were getting up and out of slot machines and sanitizing those machines almost instantly after a person would leave that machine. Now, this closure comes a few days after new accusations from employees inside Gila River Casino, some of them expressing their concerns to us, to ABC 15, about the safety measures in place and those protocols. Some telling us that management refuses to reveal how many employees have tested positive for coronavirus since the reopening. And this week we told you about Robert Washington Jr. He worked at the Lone Butte Casino here in Chandler, and his family says he contracted the virus days after returning to work and died from the virus. His daughter has said her dad was forced to work the security desk and interacted with everyone coming and leaving the casino. So again, we know Lone Butte Casino is closed. We were told back on May 15th when they reopened that they were testing all of their employees every 2 weeks. Again, some employees claiming that they are not revealing exactly how many employees have tested positive. Lots of unanswered questions at this time. We're going to stay on top of it and bring you any new information that the Gila River Casino management gives to us. For now, reporting live in Chandler, Carla Navarrete, ABC 15, Arizona.
Carla, thank you for that. Meantime, cases of the coronavirus are spiking across Arizona. For 2 weeks, we have seen a dramatic increase in our numbers, also in hospitalizations and deaths. There are nearly 41,000 confirmed cases across Arizona right now.
So in response to the increase in cases and hospitalizations, all tied to COVID-19, Governor Ducey announcing some changes for businesses like bars and restaurants. And our Mark Thompson is following this part of the story for us from home this morning. There are new protocols in place, Mark. Owners and customers all need to follow. Good morning.
Yeah, indeed there are, Kaylee. Good morning to you. And for weeks, restaurants and businesses were given guidelines on how to operate. They had a list of recommendations that came out as far as social distancing. And this was all from the CDC and State Department of Health Services. And it appears that many were not able to manage themselves, and now they are facing requirements. The governor says that businesses who have not been compliant will receive some kind of education. Now, here are some of the takeaways from these new guidelines. Businesses need to create a plan to return to work in phases when possible. Hand sanitizers, they need to be available publicly at the entrances and exits of those buildings. And restaurant employees who interact with customers must wear face masks.
Enhanced guidance for establishments to limit congregations. This guidance will be issued by Health Services. We will give establishments the opportunity to be educated on what is proper guidance, but serious changes are needed to be made.
And city leadership and governments will be given the enforcement of these new rules. You can find a complete list at abc15.com. Reporting live this morning, Mark Thompson, ABC 15 Arizona. Back to you.
All right, Mark, thank you for that. The governor also announcing during his press conference that mayors will be allowed to announce their own mask mandates. And we've learned Chandler has called a special council meeting for 4 p.m. today to make a decision. The town of Gilbert will hold an emergency meeting tomorrow morning. And mayors from Phoenix, Mesa, and Tempe have already announced a mask mandate is coming. And for a running list of what Arizona cities have decided to do, just go to abc15.com. Happening today, Mesa will release its initial plans for reopening schools. We're talking about Mesa Public Schools here, but the district still wants feedback from you, the parents and the teachers. They're holding 3 community meetings for this. One of them is happening tonight. You do have to sign up to join either online or via text. Meantime, some school districts are welcoming students back for summer camp right now. Kids Zone Ed Camp in Peoria is performing temperature checks and health screenings on students and staff members daily. Other preventative measures there include having only 9 students per classroom, distance markers on the floor, limited shared materials, and having a staff member solely dedicated to keeping toys and surfaces sanitized.
How are we going to provide drinking water safely? How are we going to do drop-off? Things like that. It was just all of those little things that we've never really had to focus on were all a huge focus this year.
The district says this is a testing ground as they work on plans for the next school year.
Well, just in this morning, the weekly jobs report is out right now. 1.5 million workers applied for unemployment benefits for the first time last week. The latest numbers from the Labor Department mark the 11th straight weekly decline in applications since they peaked at nearly 7 million in March.
10 minutes past the hour now. Up next here on ABC 15 Mornings, will a decision be made today on DACA? In less than an hour, the Supreme Court could issue its ruling on whether President Trump could scrap an Obama-era program.
Plus, we're staying on top of this morning's breaking news. While you were sleeping, several Valley casinos closed. 6:13, demonstrations resuming in Phoenix last night as members of our community pushed for more police reform. A rally was held outside of the City Hall while the City Council voted on a budget. The final budget was passed with no changes in funding to the Phoenix Police Department. It does set aside, though, millions of dollars to fund the new Civilian Review Board. In Washington right now, lawmakers from both parties are working to pass competing police reform bills. So how exactly do these proposals differ? Let's break it down for you. The measure from House Democrats is called the Justice in Policing Act. It calls for a ban on chokeholds. It also has a limit on legal protections for police officers and a national database for excessive force incidents. The Republican proposal calls for restrictions on chokeholds and an enhanced use of force database. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wants to begin debating the GOP measure sometime next week, and the House Judiciary Committee has already passed its proposal. That happened last night.
Here in Arizona, about 25,000 Dreamers are awaiting a possible decision by the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to DACA. According to a recent study, nearly 6,000 are healthcare workers working the COVID-19 front lines. Here's Carla Navarrete with more on a possible decision that could come down today.
On the heels of its 8-year anniversary, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, commonly known as DACA, is coming to its final hour, whether it will continue or be completely halted. In June 2012, DACA gave approximately 600,000 to 800,000 undocumented immigrants, known as Dreamers, who were brought to the U.S. as children, the ability to stay in the country without the threat of deportation. While it doesn't provide for a true legal status, the goal was to pave a way for Dreamers to become residents. A good number of those who have benefited from the program have gone on to college, are now working professionals in their respective fields. In 2017, when President Donald Trump took office, DACA's future was threatened. He vowed to get rid of the program. The courts took much of the back and forth of its legality, and for about 2 years now, we've been awaiting a decision from the U.S. Supreme Court on whether DACA stays or goes away for good.
Streaks of light across our sky. They make for some incredible photos, but this powerful lightning can also be deadly, and it's responsible for some of the most devastating wildfires in our state. It's Monsoon Awareness Week, and today we're talking lightning, which on average kills more than 2 Arizona residents each year. And early in the monsoon, while conditions are still very dry, like what we're seeing now, lightning can start wildfires. In fact, lightning is what started one of the largest wildfires in Arizona history, the 2005 Cave Creek Complex Fire, which burned nearly 250,000 acres. So this monsoon, make sure that you're clearing brush and creating defensible space around your property. And remember, if you hear thunder, it's time to go inside. Lightning can strike as far as 10 miles away from a thunderstorm. So wait at least 30 minutes after you hear the last rumble of thunder before heading back outside. When thunder roars, go indoors. Easy to remember here as we head into the monsoon. We're already into the season officially, but as we look at your most accurate forecast, we're certainly not seeing that monsoon weather pattern just yet. We've got dry and clear conditions across the valley and across Arizona. As I zoom on out, you're going to see dry conditions and clear conditions across the region too. Our storm system that brought the gusty winds the last couple days continues to push to the northeast. I keep a close eye on moisture, especially this time of year, as that's a good indicator of when we start to see that monsoon weather pattern setting up. And so far, as you look at the dew points, the measure in the moisture in the atmosphere, we've got a lot of brown in our state and in our region, an indication that the air is still really dry. We need more of that green to really show us that that moisture is increasing across our state. Not going to see any of that happen here this weekend. Instead, that disturbance pushes further to the north, and we've got high pressure building in, but this ridge of high pressure is going to kick off a warm up. It starts this weekend, and then next week it gets even hotter as that ridge of high pressure kind of parks itself over our state. We're talking temperatures near 110, even a little bit hotter next week. But then some signs after that, I'll tell you, I'm starting to see maybe some moisture flowing into our state by next weekend. So not this weekend, but next weekend. We're talking June 28th, maybe 29th, and potentially some signs of our monsoon setting up by then. It's too early to be sure, but know that that's what I'm going to be watching very closely over the next few days. In the meantime, enjoy the low hundreds today and tomorrow before we start a warm up this weekend. Winds also backing off, and then next week we've got that hotter weather with highs near 110 or higher setting up for us. This morning we're at 77 degrees, relative humidity at just 18%, so still really dry out there. Winds right now coming in out of the east at 7 miles an hour, blowing a little bit of that smoke from the bushfire into spots like Fountain Hills, a little hazy, but I'm not seeing any air quality alerts because of that smoke this morning, but I just wanted to give you a heads up. That wind shift will happen this later today, bringing those winds out of the west-southwest, blowing that smoke away from the Phoenix area this afternoon. Temperature-wise, we'll be back into the low 80s by 7 to 8 o'clock, and then into the 90s after about 9 to 10 o'clock this morning. We won't see the hundreds today, though, until close to 3 o'clock this afternoon. It'll be a more gradual warm-up today, a high of 103 in Phoenix. By comparison, yesterday we hit a high of 104, so today just a degree lower than that, with highs in the low hundreds across the valley. We'll even see highs in the upper 90s in Anthem and in Cave Creek. Across Arizona, highs in the low hundreds here in the valley and in in western Arizona, 93 for a high in Kingman, 81 in Heber, and mid-70s in Flagstaff. Those winds will increase again a bit this afternoon in northern Arizona. Some breezes up north, but gusts near 20 to 25 miles an hour. Nowhere near as strong as what we dealt with the last couple of days. And for the valley, look for calm winds coming in out of the west this afternoon. 103 for a high today, then tomorrow 102 with overnight lows back down into the low to mid-70s. This weekend we begin that warm up. 105 Saturday, 108 on Sunday, and then next week, it gets sizzling hot again with temperatures near 110 by Monday, 111 on Tuesday, and up to 112 by Wednesday. That 7-day forecast still looks dry, but again, beyond that, potentially watching some changes, so stay tuned for updates on that.
ABC 15 Desert Drive Time, sponsored by Accident Law Group.
And here's a sign people are remaining working from home here. This is the 10 eastbound at the 60. Pre-pandemic, you know that this area would be loaded up here at 6:20 on a Thursday morning. Right now, traffic is moving right along. Up next here on ABC 15 Mornings, independently owned, and it could be your answer for Father's Day as we feature an East Valley spot in We're Open, Arizona.
Plus, a race against time to get the coronavirus under control. The governor makes the decision to mobilize the National Guard for contact tracing. More details on that coming up.
So we may not be traveling as much right now, but if you miss flying and planes or just need a spot to grab a pint after a long week, we found a spot in the valley that combines it all.
If you like airplanes, dogs, and beer, then Flying Basset Brewing is your spot. You can find them near Ray and Cooper Roads in Gilbert.
We're just a local neighborhood brew pub. My wife and I kind of started the concept as someplace that we wanted to come. So we wanted to create an environment that was very welcoming to everybody, not just beer connoisseurs or beer people.
Owner Bob Gagnon is a pilot. He says the name was not originally about aviation, though. It was actually about these two adorable pups.
It wasn't really associated with aviation, which is my job, and an airline pilot. It was more associated with the Bassets and how they have the big ears and everything. It was kind of gone with that. It wasn't until we started putting the building together that we're like, hey, we could take this, just go with an aviation theme. We have like airplanes, hanging around the place, a lot of airline themes and aviation themed beers and food items, things like that.
They have more than 20 beers on tap, from IPAs and stouts to ales, and no vacation is complete without good food.
And food. It's like kind of burgers, fish and chips. Can't get rid of our fish and chips. Those are kind of a big thing for us. But yeah, burgers and appetizers, our pretzel board, things like that. Really simple food for right now. As we get going down the road more, we'll be adding more menu items to everything.
They've made changes to the restaurant to maintain social distancing, and Rob says his goal for now is to weather the storm and make it through the summer. Now, as for those two pups, we're told that they do visit the brewery every once in a while. So to find more information on other restaurants and stories, you can visit our website, abc15.com/open.